What up, Dokkanners? Global received a data download last night, and this is about 100 megabytes beefier than the JP one. So in today's video, we're going to be covering the content of the data download, and this is basically a recap of the JP video, but there's a few things that I would like to discuss that kind of follows up on what I discussed in the previous one. So if you did watch that one, there is actually some more information, some more useful information to get from this one. So without further ado, let's jump in, but I will be starting by recapping pretty much everything that I discussed in that video. We'll start with the actual time of the unit's release. Part 2 is going to be starting September 7th at 11 p.m. PDT, which is 6 hours after the global reset and 15 hours after the JP's daily reset. So if you guys want to know exactly what time that is for you, just simply click on the new Dokkan Wiki. The link is provided in the description, and it will show you the time right here. Now, these two characters are the free-to-play units that are getting Dokkan Awakenings. As you can see on the left here, we've got the Trunks and the Gohan. These two easiest are going to be dropping 2 hours after the start of part 2. And in fact, it's going to be a pretty busy time because we've pretty much got every event that's going to be dropping during part 2 at the same time, or actually within about a 2-hour window. Most of it will be starting at 11 p.m. and then 2 hours afterwards we'll be getting the EZAs and I believe Burst Mode. Those are the only two events that are going to be dropping 2 hours later. So if you guys are ones who like to burn through the content pretty quickly, you're going to have your hands full with a bunch of stuff. I'm going to be going live on the channel later on tonight to do all of these events. I'm going to be recording videos. It's going to be awesome. So make sure you guys subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss the live stream. We're probably going to be streaming for a good maybe 4 or 5 hours. It's going to be a pretty busy day. So let's take a look at these units here. I discussed this on the JP video, but now that we have the full translations, it's much easier to look at. Plus, there are a few details that we didn't have right on the previous video. Future Saga Key plus 350% is the leader skill for this int Trunks. This is the Dokkan Awakening for the previous SSR Trunks. And there's a couple of changes here that I'd like to mention, starting with the domain field, but we'll get to that in a second. Super attack, raised attack and defense for 1 turn, causes supreme damage. For the passive, Key plus 2 attack and defense plus 80, plus an additional attack and defense plus 20 with each attack performed up to 80. This is also another thing that I want to mention. In my previous video, because of the Google translation, it didn't quite line up properly. People were thinking it might have been medium chance to dodge, medium chance for an additional attack, but turns out it is a medium chance of performing a critical hit when there's a Future Saga or Time Travelers category enemy. So that's a very important distinction to take note of. And the good thing here is that this pretty much eliminates the need to put critical on the character with more of an emphasis on dodge and additional, because this pretty much covers that. Plus, this guy is set to receive an EZA at some point because his leader skill very much asks for it. And then for the last part of the passive, plus an additional attack and defense plus 40 when performing a super attack if there's another Future Saga category ally attacking in the same turn. Now, for the active skill, which by the way is a domain field, this is, or domain Dokkan field, whatever you want to call it. This is the free-to-play version of the new mechanic that was introduced by the LR Tech Fusion Zamasu. So this will be obtainable here, and this will provide a Future Saga category superclass and enemies and allies attack and defense plus 10%. This wasn't quite translated properly in my previous JP video, so this is another thing that I'd like to mention here. If you guys want access to all of these animations, I did link a Dokkan World video in my previous JP data download one, or you can simply just click on these animations and it will show you what all of these different animations do. I don't want to sit here and go through all of it because we've got a lot of stuff to cover, but this one is apparently voiced, so that is also the good thing for JP and global players. Whichever version you want, you could listen to that. Now let's move on and let's take a look at the Trunks. Let's make sure we didn't miss anything here. Entrusted Will 50%. So again, this guy's going to be getting a leader skill. Super attack, raises attack for 1 turn, causes supreme damage. Passive attack and defense plus 100, plus an additional attack and defense plus 50% when key is 90 or 9 or more, not 90. Plus an additional attack and defense plus 50, and all allies defense plus 20%. This is important because in my previous video, this wasn't quite listed out exactly like this. So that all allies defensive support also expires after 7 turns, at which point defense plus 100 becomes the remaining passive on this character. So very interesting there. You've got a turn-based support that expires at a certain point. So I'm curious to see what this EZA support will look like, because this is actually not bad for a free-to-play character. Providing defensive support for everybody is actually not bad at all. So now let's take a look at the Gohan. We already know what these two EZAs do if you guys saw my other video, but for the Gohan, you should know that the transformation condition has remained unchanged. This has not changed at all. It is still 58% or more with turn 4 and Trunks on the team. People were hoping for this to be changed a little bit, but unfortunately it has not. But everything else remains the same in terms of the EZA info. Go check out my other video. So that pretty much covers all of the new units that we've got so far. Of course, we don't have the new LR Part 2s yet because we're not there yet. We still have to wait for a week into part 2 to actually get them. So in terms of the previews, in terms of animations or whatever we might get in terms of promotional stuff or marketing, it's all up to Dokkan to decide when they want to show it to us, because as of right now, they technically don't have to, because we're still a week out. So I think for the next couple of days, we probably won't get anything, but then maybe closer to maybe like halfway through the week, we'll probably start to see some stuff. Maybe there'll be like a Dokkan Now video that happens on JP. I don't know if Global's going to get one this time. It might be like last year where they just simply show the LR illustrations for Global. It all just depends on what they feel like doing. But now let's go through some other very interesting details. So shout out to Proton for all things data download information. Follow my Twitter at Proton10MGE. Okay, thank you. So while he was listing out all of these different assets for the various things that are coming up, nothing that is of surprise here. We all know that this is coming. We got the Trunks, we got the STR Trunks, we have the growth event, the Paths of Good and Evil. So this is the link level boosted stage. Now, apparently the Dokkan Now itself added an extra little note inside their description of their video when we had the Dokkan Now presentation, and they basically apologized for giving the impression that this event was already available. And this led to a lot of confusion. People have been asking a lot of my streams and videos, Toon, where is that link level boosted stage? And I've been telling people, trying to put out the fire, that it's coming in part 2, but they didn't quite articulate that in such a manner in that Dokkan Now video. So they've since apologized in the description of that Dokkan Now video. But now we know that this is coming up during part 2. So if there was any doubt before, now we know it is coming up during part 2. And actually, a little interesting factoid about this link level stage boost thing. There are 2 stages for it, and this is why the missions that are associated with it have been saying, well, actually, let me find it. Is it this one? Yeah, clear paths of good and evil 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. So in my previous video, I was a little bit confused about this, because how could you possibly run through this 15 times if you can only run through the stage 3 times every 7 days, and there's only 4 weeks left of the celebration? You would only be able to run through this 12 times. But the reason that you can is because there are 2 stages. Don't forget, the first one is available for any unit with an enhanced link level up rate, which, by the way, the link level rate coefficient is the same as the 8-year anniversary King Kai one, 4242. So this still remains as the highest link level rate coefficient in the game. But then there's also a second stage that is strictly for Future Saga characters. So when you're running through this 3 times every 7 days, you're actually running through this 6 times every 7 days, because you're doing each stage 3 times, but there's 2 of them. So that's why 6 times 4 is 24, which means you are well within the possibility of clearing this 15 times. So that, I'm assuming, is why they've made it like this. Although I don't know why they made it 15. Why don't they make it 20 or 24? I don't know. So this is what they've given us in terms of that mission. This is a follow-up to my JP video where I was a little bit confused about that. Let's see, what else we got here? Oh, we saw that one. But then, yeah, so going through all of these different assets, there were a couple of interesting pieces of information that Proton and Air Dokkan were able to provide for us, and that is the details of the upcoming events, starting with the Divine Wrath and Mortal Will. As you guys may know, we have a couple more stages coming to the Divine Wrath Mortal Will. The graphic has changed. Vegito Blue and Fusion Zamasu will likely be involved in it, and we actually know the names of the stages. Let me actually pull it up. It's called Real. Well, it's not exactly called. Actually, you know what? Let me go to the global side and let's look it up. So let's go to events, challenge events. We can actually see the name of the missions. So if we go down here, I think it's this one, or it might be this one. Divine Wrath Mortal Will. So yes, it is called the Real Warrior Race. Level 6 is called Final Judgment, and then level 7 is called Supreme Fusion. So you can kind of tell where this is going, right? Level 7 is likely going to be Vegito. Level 6 is probably going to be Fusion Zamasu. Level 5 might have something to do with the Saiyans in some capacity. Maybe it's Trunks, maybe it's Vegeta, maybe it's both, maybe it's Goku Vegeta, who knows? But courtesy of Proton and Air Dokkan, we were able to kind of get an idea for what's going to be coming up. Now, this is by no means 100% confirmed. What they basically did was, in the data files, they were kind of mixing and matching to see what logically fits in terms of what bosses would fit the appropriate stages. So nothing is official here, but based on conjecture, this is likely what's going to be coming up. So for part 5, stage 5, we're likely going to be fighting the Goku and Vegeta Blue. Okay, are you not showing up? All right, cool. So this image has decided to not show up, but as you can see here, the tech Goku Vegeta Blue will likely be the boss of stage 5. Then for stage 6, it will be AGL Fusion Zamasu, potentially. And then for stage 7, it would be STR Vegito Blue. And again, this is further corroborated by the naming of these stages. It kind of makes sense, right? The Real Warrior Race, this would clearly not be Zamasu. He's not all about, warrior pride or any of that stuff. This is very obviously the Saiyans. this has to be Zamasu, and we've already covered every other version of Zamasu, so this has to be the Fusion Zamasu. Rendering Final Judgment, that's what the Fusion Zamasu is all about. And then the Supreme Fusion is the match to that. But I don't think this is where it ends. I think that there will be more coming up in part 3, because there is no acknowledgement of a corrupted fusion, or not that we even go by that name, but having a Spirit Sword Trunks and a corrupted Fusion Zamasu involved in some form or fashion would make the most sense to kind of like end this arc, because this challenge event is basically going through the narrative of the future arc, and not having those two elements would be kind of weird. So I feel like part 3 will at least have 2 stages, stages 8 and stage 9, probably for Spirit Sword Trunks and for the Fusion Zamasu Corrupted. So there could be more stuff coming up later on down the road, but that's what this is. So shout out to Pro10 and Air Dokkan for this. There's a little bit more regarding events. We do have an Infinite Dragon Ball History coming up. If you guys saw in the data download here, Infinite Dragon Ball History stage 28, we know that this is going to be called Versus Trunks. So apparently, according to the data and their mixing and matching of the assets, this seems to be logically where they're going with the event. It's going to be a 6 to 7, what is it? 7 stage event, which kind of fits with a Infinite Dragon Ball History stage, starting with the Z Trunks, the Youth Trunks from the future. Then you've got the Trunks that goes to the present day of Dragon Ball Z. Then you've got Super Saiyan Trunks from that same arc. Then you've got Super Trunks, you know, right before they beat Cell, he goes crazy power weight and whatnot. And then when he goes back to the future, he kills the androids, he kills Cell. And then we migrate to Super, where you've got the same Trunks with blue hair magically, and then Sword of Hope Trunks. So in terms of the chronological progression, this makes the most sense. And this also, you know, again, with all of the different assets they were sifting through, this seemed like the most logical place to put all of these. So that is why this is very likely going to be what it looks like for the upcoming Infinite Dragon Ball History. But again, wait for the official release for full confirmation. This is just based on what they saw, and this is basically conjecture, but pretty strong conjecture. So that is the Infinite Dragon Ball History layout. And I've seen some people comment this on Twitter. Kind of seems like a missed opportunity for this to kind of just end up being a Legendary Trunks event. Why is this not a Legendary Trunks event? It might as well be. Yeah, he doesn't have like different forms, but he's got different ages and like different, I mean, the names are different, for crying out loud. You got Trunks Youth Future, and as far as I'm concerned, that fits as a different form, right? He's labeled something different. So yeah, this could have totally worked as a Legendary Saiyan event, but I guess they chose not to do that, so that's weird. Now moving on to the Ultimate Red Zone. So stage 4 is going to feature the Rose Zamasu, as confirmed by the graphic that they showed here. We know that Rose Zamasu is going to be there. We just didn't know exactly how it was going to unfold. But now, based on, again, sifting through the data, finding whatever logical pieces fit where, it's very likely that we're going to be seeing a 2-stage event, with the first one being Int Zamasu, that apparently causes supreme damage. And then for the second phase, it would be Tech Rose Zamasu or Rose Goku Black and Zamasu. Raises attack for 1 turn, causes immense damage to the enemy, and seals for 1 turn. So this might be the new kind of little wrinkle that makes this event more of a challenge. With only there being 2 stages, this will likely be a pretty tanky event, similar to the Goku Black. Even the Imperfect Cell by himself was a menace, but Goku Black was also pretty tough. So just because it's 2 stages doesn't mean it's going to be a walk in the park. So again, wait for the official release. We can't say for sure, so we can't hold this against anybody, but this very strongly seems like what we're going to be seeing for the Ultimate Red Zone, the URZ. But the good news is more tickets. So if you guys are trying to summon to try to get more copies of these Future Saga characters, you will have more opportunities with these tickets that come from it. So that pretty much wraps it up, folks. Part 2 is now set in stone. We know what's coming up. We will go over all the details when the campaign info releases later on. Again, I will be going live on the channel probably about an hour or so before part 2 begins, at which point when we do jump into part 2, we'll be doing all the challenge events, and then a couple hours later, we'll also be doing the EZAs and burst mode. Hopefully we can get it all done on stage. I was going to say on stage. I mean, it kind of is on stage, right? The live stream stage. So hopefully you guys are there for all that goodness. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like down below. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the upcoming festivities. Are you happy that all of the content seemingly is going to be dropping all at once at the start of part 2? Or are you hoping for a little bit more pacing for the duration of this second portion of the celebration? Are you hoping for a sneaky surprise EZA coming up during this part 2, or do you think that this is pretty much all that we're going to be getting? Let me know your thoughts about all of it. Anything you want in the comments down below. Also, be sure to subscribe for more dope content in the future, and click the notification bell so that you let YouTube know you want to see more of my stuff. Do it!